Today we're going to talk about subtracting fractions and mixed numbers. So it's very similar to adding fractions. The only difference is when, just like if you're subtracting normally, sometimes you need to borrow or regroup. So we're going to talk about that. So the steps are the same. The most important part is remembering that you need to find that least common multiple. Use your multiplication chart for that. Okay? So let's look at problem number 1. 9/10 minus 1/10. So again, we look at our denominators. We need them to be the same. So 10 and 2, right now they are not. If we look at our multiplication chart, we should see that the lowest number that both 10 and 2 multiply into is 10. So their least common multiple is 10. That means the denominator in our answer is 10. So now we need to convert. I'm going to convert on the top. 10 times what is 10? 10 times 1 is 10. If I multiply the bottom by 1, I need to multiply the top by 1. 9 times 1 is 9. On the bottom, 2 times what will give me a denominator of 10? 2 times 5. If we multiply the bottom by 5, we need to multiply the top by 5. 1 times 5 is 5. And now we subtract. Just subtract your numerators. 9 minus 5 is 4 over our denominator of 10. Then we should be using our factor chart to double check and see if it can be simplified further. So 4 and 10, they both divide by 2. So I'm going to simplify by dividing the top and bottom by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So our simplified answer is 2/5. Number 2. 27 and 7/8 minus 4 and 2/5. Again, we're looking at our denominators. We need them to be the same using that least common multiple. So I'm using my multiplication chart, figuring out that the lowest number that both 8 and 5 multiply into is 40. If my least common multiple is 40, I need the denominator in both of these to end up being 40. Now I need to convert. 8 times what will give me 40? 8 times 5. If I multiply the bottom by 5, I need to multiply the top by 5. 7 times 5 is 35. On our bottom fraction, 5 times what is 40? 5 times 8. If I multiply the bottom by 8, I need to multiply the top by 8. 2 times 8 is 16. Now we can subtract. 5 minus 6. We are 35 minus 16. If I do 5 minus 6, I can't do that, so I borrow. Our 3 becomes a 2. 5 becomes 15. 15 minus 6 is 9. 2 minus 1 is 1 over our denominator of 40. 27 minus 4, well, 7 minus 4 is 3. 2 minus 0 is 2. I will use my factor chart to double check. 19 and 40. They only divide by 1, so my answer is going to remain 23 and 19/40. All right, example 3, 30 and 3/4 minus 4 and 3/16. Again, I'm double checking to make sure that our denominators are equal, that least common multiple of 4 and 16. If I use my multiplication chart, the smallest number that they both multiply into is going to be 16. So the denominator in each of these needs to be 16. So let's convert. 4 times what equals 16? 4 times 4 is 16. If I multiply the bottom by 4, I need to multiply the top by 4. 3 times 4 is 12. For the bottom here, 16 times what is 16? 16 times 1. If I multiply the bottom by 1, I need to multiply the top by 1. 3 times 1 is 3. Now we can subtract. 12 minus 3 is 9/16. 30 minus 4, well, I can't do 0 minus 4. 3 becomes 2, 0 becomes 10. 10 minus 4 is 6, 2 minus 0 is 2. I would double check on my factor chart. 9 and 16, the only number they both share is 1. So I'm going to keep it as 26 and 9/16. The U try will be 15 and 6/7 minus 4 and 2/3. You could pause the video right now and do that one, or wait until the end. So we did just basic subtractions where we didn't have to do regrouping. Now we're going to look at those where we do have to regroup. So still, we need to find the common denominators that LCM using the multiplication chart. But for regrouping, the most important step here is step 4. That if you cannot subtract if the first number is smaller than the second number. So you must borrow, just like you would do in normal subtraction. It's just a little bit different with fractions. So, example 4, 29 and 1/5 minus 6 and 3/4. So we need to find the least common denominator of 5 and 4. The lowest number that 5 and 4 both multiply into is 20. So their least common multiple is 20. That's going to be the denominator for both of these. Now we need to convert. 5 times what is 20? 5 times 4 is 20. If we multiply the bottom by 4, we need to multiply the top by 4. 1 times 4 is 4. For the second fraction, 4 times what is 20? 4 times 5. If we multiply the bottom by 5, we need to multiply the top by 5. 3 times 5 is 15. So now here's where we got to be careful in this subtraction process. So we can't do 4 minus 15. 4 is smaller than 15. Okay? So we have to borrow. When you think of normal subtraction, if you had something like 24 minus 15. We would borrow. The 2 would become a 1. The 4, we'd add 10 to and make it 14. Well, that's because we work in a number system that has base 10. It's a similar idea, okay? But with fractions, our base is whatever our denominator is, right? So our denominator in these is 20. So when we borrow, we're still going to borrow from the whole number. That 29 is going to become 1 less. It's going to become 28. And then we don't add 10 to 4. We add our base, our bottom of the fraction, our denominator. So 4 plus 20 is 24. Now we should be able to subtract. 24 minus 15 is 9/20. 28 minus 6 is 22. Double check. 9 and 20 only divide by 1, so that is our final answer. So that's a little bit tricky. Let's do another one like that. Example 5. 18 and 3/10 minus 4 and 11/15. So again, we're looking at our denominators to find the least common multiple of 10 and 15. The lowest number that 10 and 15 multiply into is 30. So our denominator for both is 30. Now we need to convert. 10 times what equals 30? 10 times 3. If we multiply the bottom by 3, we need to multiply the top by 3. 3 times 3 is 9. For the bottom fraction, 15 times what is 30? 15 times 2. If we multiply the bottom by 2, we need to multiply the top by 2. 11 times 2 is 22. Now we start the subtraction process. But again, the numerator here of 9 is smaller than 22. We can't do 9 minus 22, so we have to borrow. Our 18 is what we're going to borrow from. We're going to take 1 away. It's going to become 17. Then again, remember, we don't add 10. That's just with normal subtraction because we work in base 10. We have to add what our base is, our bottom is, our denominator here, which for this problem is 30. So we're going to take our numerator of 9 plus our denominator of 30 to get 39. So in the last one we added 20 because our denominator was 20. In this one we add 30 because our denominator is 30. If our denominator is 100, we add 100. If our denominator is 60, we add 60, whatever that base is. Now we can subtract. 39 minus 22. Well, 9 minus 2 is 7. 3 minus 2 is 1. So 17 over our denominator of 30. 17 minus 4 is 13. Double check to see if it simplifies. It does not. That is our final answer. So we have you in a basic subtraction one on the back. And then this you try is going to be one where you should have to borrow. So 11 2/5 minus 7 2/3. Go ahead and work on those right now.